Long before nations had names, long before borders were drawn, this vast northern land was home to stories written not in ink, but in wind, water, and earth. For over 12,000 years, indigenous peoples lived in harmony with the rhythms of the land we now call Canada. The Haida built canoes as grand as the Pacific waves. The Cree followed the footsteps of the buffalo. The Inuit carved life from snow and ice, thriving where others would perish. This was not an empty wilderness. It was a living, breathing world of nations, traditions, and wisdom. In 1497, John Cabot sailed under the English flag, glimpsing the Atlantic shores. In 1534, Jacques Cartier raised a cross in the name of France, sailing the Great St. Lawrence. The fur trade was born, pelts and promises exchanged for power. But with the traders came disease, and a new era began, one of alliance and upheaval. Champlain founded Quebec in 1608, planting the seed of New France. Rival empires, France and Britain, clashed over land and influence. The battlefield stretched across continents, but the war ended here in 1763. Britain took control, and the French became subjects of the English crown. Loyalists fleeing the American Revolution poured into British Canada. Two Canadas were formed: Upper English-speaking Canada, Lower French-speaking Canada. Tension brewed. And in 1812, the young colony stood against an American invasion. By the 1830s, cries for responsible government echoed through the streets. In 1867, a new nation was born: Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, 4 provinces under one dominion. Canada. Led by Sir John A. Macdonald, the dream stretched westward. The railway carved through rock and forest, binding coasts with steel. But that dream came at a cost. To indigenous nations, treaties were broken, their lands taken. The Métis, under Louis Riel, resisted and paid the price in blood. In 1914, Canada answered Britain's call to war, and at Vimy Ridge, a young country found its voice. In World War II, it stood again, against tyranny and genocide. Canada fought bravely, even as injustice festered at home, as Japanese Canadians were interned, and Black and Indigenous soldiers fought for rights they still didn't fully have. After the war, Canada boomed. Immigration reshaped its cities. Healthcare, pensions, and public services transformed lives. Women won the vote. The country began to define itself, not as Britain's child, but as its own identity. In Quebec, a quiet revolution stirred. Demands for equality, then sovereignty, shook the Federation. Twice, Quebec chose Canada. Barely. In 1982, Canada brought home its constitution, and with it, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. But beneath the surface, wounds remained unhealed. For over a century, Indigenous children were taken from their homes, forced into residential schools, stripped of language, culture, and dignity. In 2008, the country said sorry. But saying sorry is only the beginning. Today, Canada is a land of over 38 million people, a mosaic of cultures, languages, and dreams. It champions peace, diversity, and justice. But it also wrestles with hard truths about its past, its future, and who gets to belong. The story of Canada is still being written, not just by leaders and laws, but by artists, activists, elders, and everyday people. It's a story of survival, of reinvention, of reconciliation, and resilience.